Hello, everyone. My name is Muhammed Ismail. Welcome to another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Muhammed Ismail Bulbulia, the founder and editor of myCAhub. He was also a SAICA Top-35 Under-35 and even a former journalist. So, Muhammed Ismail, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on Two Ways. I genuinely appreciate it always. Thank you for your time, and hi to all your listeners. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Let's jump straight in. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Muhammed Ismail Bulbulia? Give us the backstory.
Awesome. So I like to start this, who are you type of question. My name is Muhammed Ismail Bulbulia, and I am a chartered accountant. It feels good to say that, but my CA journey has been anything but a clean audit. I matriculated from St. John's College. I did pretty well. I was Duck Scholar. So academics was one of, my strong points, and my identity was kind of, invested in that. Then I went to Wits University, and that all got flipped on its head. I was initially under the apprehension that anything accounting was extremely uncool. I found myself very tied up in campus politics at the forefront of fees must fall, which culminated in my failing third year accounting in spectacular fashion. Fees didn't fall. My marks certainly did. It was a low point, but the only way forward was up. I then decided to give accounting a genuine try. To my pleasant surprise, I actually really enjoyed it. I then completed my articles at Deloitte in the financial services industry. I learned a lot. I tried to learn as much as possible, soaking up, soft skills, technical skills, whatever I could. And it was there that I realized, I undertook what I call, it may sound a bit airy-fairy, but a values-based approach to life. And that's really what's, formed the foundation of my new experience as an entrepreneur and my thinking post-articles. And yeah, so after articles, I decided to try my own thing. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And that led me to the launch of myCAhub, a proudly South African startup that creates software solutions for CAs and aims to make accounting awesome for everyone else. A far cry from the third year fail, but try accounting. You never know where you may end up.
And other than fees must fall, what do you do outside of work?
So, I got my initial passion, right, from school days, which led into my dabbling into journalism. I don't know if you can say former journalist so explicitly, but I did definitely dabble into journalism, and my passion was writing. I really enjoyed English and literature at school. I enjoyed writing as well as artistic. I have an artistic flair. I enjoyed spray painting, and I paint in my spare time. And yeah, I got involved in some street art and graffiti. But honestly, to be honest, in my spare time currently, ever since I launched myCAhub, it has pretty much consumed me as a new entrepreneur. Well, as a launching the startup, and but it aligns with what I enjoy. So if I'm spending time with the business, it's part of what I enjoy. To be honest with you.
So you're a little bit more of a balance here compared to the rest of us. I like it. I like it.
Nobody said the art was good, but yeah.
Then I mean, looking at your LinkedIn profile a little bit, I saw. I mean, you were a reporter for the Daily Vox. So you don't really get that often a journalist who becomes an accountant. Like, talk to us a little bit either about that transition or journalism. Where does journalism fit into this whole story?
100% no, and it's a really good question. And it harkens back to when I was in matric, right, and coming out of school. And I think it's a really interesting point that at 18 years old, a large majority of, well, almost all students are kind of expected to know or determine what you're going to do for the rest of your life, what you're going to define yourself as in a career perspective. I find it quite interesting that, especially here in South Africa, and I think in the States, in America, there's that similarity of a high amount of attention and prestige placed on college education, and compared to, for example, what I've seen from interacting with Europeans who take some time to identify and do some work on themselves to explore before investing themselves in a career. So from my side, I took kind of the advice because I enjoyed English, and literature so much. I was under the apprehension that and it's I think it's flawed advice that if you enjoy something, you should try making a living out of it. You should pursue making money out of it, because that should be something that you aspire towards, right? So before I got into so once I matriculated, I did quite well. So I was accepted for everything that I applied for, and I also did well in the English Olympiad. So I had opportunities to go to Rhodes University, and I had the idea that I like English. I want to work as a journalist. And then my parents, very, I appreciate it right now. They were like, "What are you gonna eat? Words?" Like, it was an important. At the time, I was like, "Huh." But in retrospect, so I signed up for accounting, and then I hated accounting first year, second year, and I think the biggest reason I hated or disliked accounting was the association in my mind. I cared a lot about what other people thought of the association of accounting with being boring or numbers, and I took that seriously, which was a big lesson to learn. The price it was the price I paid for that lesson was not investing myself in that, not paying any attention, having preconceived notions about what accounting was, and just putting it to the side. And you can get through first year, second year, third year, that's when it all culminated, and I was so disinterested, to be honest with you, myself. Yes, that's when I said, but what am I going to do? Let me try journalism, and I had a blog that I used to write, and it was pretty well received. So I applied for the journalist post at the Daily Fox, and they were also starting up, so they were running for a bit, but it was not the level of organization that it is today. And it was, what an experience. And again, it shattered the notions I had of what a journalist does, or what it actually means to make money off your words, or to work for trying to make money off a passion. I learned that it was fantastic because I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I didn't like having my words edited in a certain way. I learned that when I like to write in a certain way to produce things for myself. And obviously we were writing for an audience, and it had to be formatted in a certain way. And that they were running a business, So it wasn't about me. It was about, the bigger idea in the business. But I also learned, I had really good experiences of interacting. They did really good on the ground stories. I had the opportunity to go in person, interview people, ask them, get in touch with South Africans that I wouldn't have been exposed to, necessarily in order to tell their story. So that was a really positive experience. I learned about deadlines, and I learned about and the other thing I learned was having to produce, written content, even producing artistic content. I like to paint, and some people have asked me for commissions, and I've realized, having undertaken a couple of commissions, I don't enjoy it that much. For me, the artistic expression and the writing expression is something, it's a step away from that kind of, I don't want to be, kind of constrained. I realized a big lesson there was I wouldn't want to be paid for this. I'd like to do this on my own time as my own, expression for myself, but it's very tough to be paid for it, and to take that into consideration. So my stint with journalism ended after a couple of months, just, it wasn't very long in that regard, but after doing that, I then, that's when I got caught up in fees. That was for us, third year, 1.0. That's when I got caught up in Fees Must Fall. I was very into campus politics, and I was very passionately aligned with the cause, and under a lot of apprehensions, about the effectiveness of such, undertakings and stuff. It was a very good experience because I learned a lot from it. Also, on the ground, how things work. This was one of the things that I like to stress, both from the campus experience and also from my articles experience, is the soft skills, the on the ground soft skills, learning how organizations work, who speaks to who has the power, how do things get done. That was really, really interesting. I think that's one of the key takeaways anyone in audit articles should take, not only from how their own audit firm works, but how their clients, you get some insights which most other finance professionals don't. So anyway, in a nutshell, that's how I got into journalism. It was, an expression of an assumption that doing something aligned to your passion for financial, what would be the right thing. It was not the right thing, but that's just my take and my learning from that. Obviously, I'm not here to prescribe it to anybody. There are people who, find that alignment, and that's fantastic. For me, the main message is, again, it's up to you and your values. You can have whatever you want, and you can do whatever you want. There's no prescribed way. There's no right or wrong way. The blueprint, there's no blueprint. I think the nice thing, the tricky thing about the CASA qualification is that there is a blueprint for so long in your life until you qualify third year, until the end of third year articles. There's a direct blueprint of what to do, and you kind of know, okay, and you can explore within that blueprint. But then you get to the end of articles, and then you're a real adult, and there's no list for what to do or where to go, and that's when things get real. Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit, but I want to just reiterate it. So let's say there's someone out there who's finished matric or in varsity, also maybe studying accounting, but they're also interested in maybe journalism or thinking about that. What skills did you learn from journalism that helped you in your CA career? I know you mentioned deadlines as one of them, but is there anything else that can be of benefit, or that maybe they're thinking of going that way and they can emulate you?
100%. Look, I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend being a journalist. It's a tough job, Being a CA is much better. I'm not gonna lie. Just from my own personal experience, obviously, I wasn't on the highest echelons of journalism. I was just an amateur at the very best. But one of the key skills, let me tell you, is in any context is communication and clarity of thought. And if you, that's a fantastic skill that I learned. And, not only from journalism where there's brutal cutting, especially when people are editing your articles for to be succinct and, for clarity. I learned that even when it comes to communicating as an entrepreneur, what your ideas are. For a software company where people are signing up, via a landing page, the copy, the marketing copy is so important. When you reach out to people, the words you say, you got to be compelling, the emotional language you can use in order to excite people. You don't have much for an email, to get people interested. So I did learn that, to be honest with you. I think communication is critical. And, obviously, and I learned that, and I was able to hone that through articles too. The professional context was brilliant. It was really good. So I did my articles at Deloitte. Being in that Big Four environment was amazing. Just for the opportunity of, when you speak to the partner, when you speak to a client, when you speak to this, etc. As an auditor too, I always joke and I say, people think, and I was also under the misapprehension that accountants are not social people or not adept at social skills. But as an auditor, people hate you. People can tend, when you walk in the room, you can almost feel their side because people feel you kind of like a policeman. And I wish we were policemen. I wish you had more authority to be giving you the documentation and the evidence. But it's not, even though that's not the reality. People do feel that you're checking up on their work, and sometimes it's tough to get the information that you need, got to resend. So you've got to be adept, at dealing, and you're also representing the company, so you've got to be adept at dealing with that situation, communicating clearly, how to deal with a bit of, if there is fallout, etc. Really good skills to pick up. For me, that was personally way more important than the technical skills. Any technical skills you could personally learn, and because, from in my experience, with technology, with the availability of resources, Google, even now, even more extended with ChatGPT, obviously questionable answers, but it just seems as if, the ability to access information, if you kind of know where you're looking or what you're looking for on hand, is just improving, right? So it's being able to use that, and you make use of that, but you don't need to memorize or store all those technical skills or information necessarily in your own head. It's if you, you can free up space in your time and in your mind for focusing or spending time on those softer skills. I'd never thought I'd be one to be a proponent of softer skills, but it really is so important. It really is so, you learn it, and it may be something that, doesn't naturally come, but you can always learn and improve. You can always learn and improve. You start from somewhere. And, in fact, people, I found it so funny, people who tend to have an impediment, who are focused on doing it, tend to be better. They tend to, I wouldn't even say necessarily overcompensate, but excel, just really excel better than people who are, because they focus so dramatically and drastically on improving. So
just practice.
Yeah. Practice, exactly, 100% practice. Yeah.
For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. So I'm told that you're hosting an entrepreneurship event that's focused on CAs. Can you tell us a little bit about the event and what is its main purpose?
100%. Awesome. Okay, so I started my CA Hub in 2021 after I finished articles at the end of 2020. I didn't know what I wanted to do during articles or even at the end of articles. I personally kind of knew that I didn't want to stay in audit. I wanted to try my own thing. The reason being, as I say, it goes back to a values-based approach. The biggest thing I learned in articles was to take the time to identify your own values. For me, my personal values, from looking at what made me happy, what made me sad, where I felt frustrated in the past, situations where I felt elated, where I felt great, or where I just didn't want to be there, I recognized that my personal values was freedom and independence, right? So with that in mind, I kind of knew that after articles, I wanted it, and I also had potentially a prime opportunity as an unmarried. I'm not married. I have no kids. I don't have any necessarily. I have the CASA qualification, which comes with a lot of benefits, if I'm being honest. So that was that was what based my entrepreneurship journey, and it's been 2 years so far, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a tremendous amount. It's been, I've had successes, I've had step backs, but it's been really great. And I've interacted with a lot of other CAs, qualified CAs and article trainees who ask me, who say, I have an idea. I have a good idea. I want to potentially pursue something. Where do I start? Where do I start? I have no clue where to even start or get going. And it's risky, it is risky. The entrepreneurship is one of the riskiest undertakings. I think it's 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 startups fail after the first 5 years, right? So that's why I say it goes back to your values and identifying, whether that aligns with what you want out of life. But when I was in articles, towards the end of it, the only thing I knew was audit. The only thing I was exposed to was audit. I was lucky to be in the financial services sector. So I audited banks and insurance companies, and I got to see, the behind the scenes. But I didn't really know what it's like to work in a bank. I didn't really know what it is on a day-to-day. You're just there for kind of the audit period. The purpose of this event, right? So I had a look at that, and I was previously, about a month ago, I was invited to a SAICA Northern Region event on entrepreneurship, where they invited several new entrepreneurs to come and speak about their experience. And that was a fantastic event. It was great. And when I had a look at that, I was like, this is a great idea. I would like to put on a specific myCAhub event where I can share my insights. Firstly, my insights on entrepreneurship over the last years with CA article trainees, specifically aimed at CA article trainees, as well as other qualified CAs who are interested in exploring entrepreneurship options post articles, who'd like to know, I have this kind of idea, whether it relates to software, whether it relates to this. Obviously, my experience is in starting a software startup, and there's a lot of benefits and ideas that people have spoken about as things get more digitalized in that regard. So the question is, how do I start? Where do I start developing this? What do I need to know in terms of laws, in terms of setting up a company? Is there anything poppy, etc.? The purpose of this, of my presentation, my portion of the event, there's two parts of the event. I'm going to speak about the second part, but the purpose of the first part is to share those insights, what I learned, to make things easy for you. So you don't have to go through, if you are interested, just coming to learn, you don't have to go through the same hiccups or the same, setbacks that I went through. You can learn. That's the purpose of learning and, sharing experience. And I'd love to share that with you. I think that CAs are uniquely positioned to be entrepreneurs, having the financial understanding and background. You made a brilliant point in your recent Africa Talks interview, where you said as a CA, you can walk into any industry. Every kind of business needs a CA. And you can even potentially align that. If you're interested in bicycles, you could align, or cycle, you could align it with a bicycle firm, or, something that aligns in that regard. So as a CA, you can also use that, your different interests, and align it with something in entrepreneurship. So that's the first part. The second part the first part of the event will be a presentation from myself, giving those highlights, an interactive presentation. I want to take questions and make it be as interactive as possible with the attendees. The second part of the event will be a panel discussion. We've been very lucky to get Abed Tao, who
Wow.
is, yes, Abed Tao, the CEO and co-founder of the Mani Group. He's a top 35 finalist for 2 years, right? He was a top 35 finalist in 2015 and 2017. And then he was a judge last year. He was one of my judges in the top 35 competition. So he's amazing. And he's co-founded 3 companies. There was a successful exit of one of his companies, Tutami, to a JSE listed company. He's, I think he's not only running with the money, but myDough. And the reason, one of the focuses against asking, Abed to come was he could, the other insight, perhaps I don't want to go into software post articles, but I'd like to start my own audit firm. I'd like to start something in the assurance, advisory, or consulting space. Where do I even start post articles? Again, you're not necessarily made privy to that, especially the bigger the organization at Deloitte. You don't see the internal functionings of how that works. And the idea behind bringing someone like Abed onto the panel was so that he could provide his insights and experience of not only, he's got the Tutami and the software related startups, but the Thamani group, and if you read, I read through some of, his experiences and how in the first year there was a struggle, and man, it's inspiring stuff. It's really inspiring to always read that story and it shows you no matter what type of entrepreneur you are, it's kind of always the same. And that's just it too. I want to, even though your technical skills may be fantastic from an audit perspective, it's not about that. It's about marketing. It's about how did you get your first clients? How do you present yourself? How are you going to make strategic partnerships? There's so much more to running a business than just the technical skills. And that's the idea of getting Abed on the panel. The second panelist is the one and only Yusuf Baudiat, also CASA and CFO of FEM. You had him here previously on the show. And Yusuf he's one of the best. Also another top 35 finalist in 2021. And the reason behind having Yusuf on the panel to share his insights and experience. So the funny thing is, all 3 of us are from Deloitte. All 3 of us come from an audit background. And Yusuf was an audit manager at Deloitte. And he made, a big question that we're also trying to address as part of the event is, okay, perhaps I'm not interested in entrepreneurship, but a lot of CA trainees want to make the transition out of audit, right? Perhaps into a financial manager or financial services position and slowly up the ladder to a CFO or C-suite executive position. Some making their way up the corporate ladder. And again, how do you do that? There's no blueprint in that regard. But Yusuf not only transitioned out of audit at Deloitte, but he's on his second CFO role, post articles, and he's under, he was in the top 35, under 35, and the FEM writes from my understanding, almost a premium income of almost R1 billion, significant assets under management. Yeah, and just to get to that, again, to have Yusuf on the panel to share his insights, his journey of how he made that transition. What did he do? What was his thoughts? If you read Yusuf's bio on his LinkedIn, he also sits on the board of Legal Insurance Expenses, Visa SA, and he's a member of the Institute of Directors. I think he wants to become a certified director ultimately, and sit on boards. And again, that's another career path or option for CAs that you don't learn about, or you're never exposed to in articles, let alone, not even in campus, let alone articles. How do you do that? Where do you go? That's the point behind this event. So the first part of the event will be a 45-minute presentation by myself on my experiences answering those questions. We'll then have a short break with refreshments served, and then the panel discussion session with Abed and Yusuf. I'll have some prepared questions as well as questions sent in previously before the event from the audience that will address them. But the whole point of the panel discussion is to be as interactive as possible and to get the audience questioning and answering. And to, I personally, I've been to other events. I don't like when the MC takes over the event and asks this question. I'm going to be MCing. I promise not to do that. It's going to be audience-centric, audience-focused. We're here to answer your questions and help you out and get some insights from these amazing CAs. We've got I was just joking the other day. So we've got Yusuf is a top 35 finalist, myself is a top 35 finalist, then Abed, who's a 2-time top 35 finalist and a judge. So it's like getting 4 top 35 for the price of 3. It's yeah. So the event is being held on 27th May Saturday, 27th May at Wits University from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. It's a 2-hour event. Refreshments will be served. There will be a networking session after the event and during refreshments, but a specific networking session after the event also to interact with other CA entrepreneurs trained. Well, not entrepreneurs, no entrepreneurship experience required. Other people who are just interested in, doing something, cool post articles, checking something out, having their options open, exploring different things, and to make full advantage of the CAs who are already there, to share some of their insights. Saturday, 27th May, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., 2 hours. We have in-person tickets and virtual tickets available. To book, mycahub.co.za/events. mycahub.co.za/events. You can either just go to mycahub.co.za, and then on the menu, you'll see one of the options will be events. You can click there too. We try to make it easy for people to get there.
No,
And you can always
Long-
reach out. Yes. Yeah. And you can always
long
reach
as they
out
know
to
where
me.
to go.
Yes.
I
That's
mean,
what the
for
event's
my-
about. We're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great event. We've got some fantastic panelists. I'm there to share, everything I want, everything I can. Any questions you may have, I'm here to, just bring it up and see and do our best. Yeah.
I have some questions, but I realize if I ask you these questions, then that's it's going to come out. I'd rather have it come up in the event. So I'm not going to ask that question about entrepreneurship. But tell us a little bit about your SAICA Top-35 Under-35 experience. What was it like, and would you recommend others to apply?
Okay, so my SAICA Top-35 Under-35 experience, it actually happened the prior year in 2021, when, after I started myCAhub, I was trying absolutely everything. One of the things about entrepreneurship that I do recommend, one of the skills I've learned is a sense of radical responsibility, right? It's up to you. You've got to take everything on. Let me not say that. You don't have to take everything on, but it's up to you, to do as much as you can in terms of trying to achieve success in the business, right? If it is to be, it's up to me, right? You can't make any excuses when you've decided and this is your choice to undertake that. So I was trying absolutely everything. And I was very lucky to be extended the invite to the Top-35 Under-35 21 event and dinner. And when I went there, I saw Yusuf, and Yusuf was, I remember Yusuf. I was on one of the audits when he was at the acting CFO, and I was one of the audits in second year. And I didn't know anyone else, and I was like, okay, I've got to do something. I've got to make something of this opportunity. So I went up to speak to Yusuf, and he was absolutely amazing. He was so encouraging, and we had a really great chat, and we touched base. And he encouraged me, along with many other people, since myCAhub, our target market are CAs and chartered accountants. Like, we make software solutions tailor-made for CAs. Our flagship product is our all-in-one CPD toolkit for CAs. So along with Yusuf, a couple of other people encouraged me to apply for the Top-35 Under-35 competition, taking that into account, as well as our financial literacy initiative. So we're putting on financial literacy workshops for the past years. I'm passionate about financial literacy. There are a club at St. John's College. We've been putting on workshops with donations with proceeds going directly to the Tooways Bursary Fund. So I had a lot going on, and I decided I'm going to give it a try. Let me condense that and put it forward. And I gave it my best shot. And I was surprisingly, I was so thankful to be afforded the opportunity. And then after that, so they do ask for a lot. I bet I'm telling you, any Top-35 finalist can say that the process of, they do ask in terms of a portfolio of evidence and getting your stuff together. And, there's quite a few things to get, but it's most definitely worth it. It's most definitely worth it. The key thing that came out of there, in my experience was, well, there are a couple of things. The first was the experience of being exposed to a high caliber event, being exposed to the judges, who, Abed was one of the judges. That was nuts, man. Yeah, Abed was one of the judges, which was great, as well as these other, there are a lot of sponsors last year. So a lot of highly placed CAs there, who were sharing. It was just, the lead up to it was great. And also interacting with the other Top-35 finalists. Man, that was nuts to see young CAs doing incredible things. It was that, and being able to just speak to them, interact with them, get a bit of a sense. It is quite a packed event. So the 2 days, where you are doing your presentations to the judges, was quite packed, but overall it was a very well managed event. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the cool thing is, we've been quite lucky with this top 35 cohort in 2022, where they kind of stayed in touch and stuff. And again, the best thing I can say is just the melding of ideas. You have CAs who, as you indicated, can come from any background and work in any industry whatsoever. And when you just put people in the same room, cool people, people who have interesting ideas or want to work towards the betterment of something. And I mean, that's to me, that's most everybody. Everybody has a plan. Everybody has their own ideals and wishes. And maybe you just don't have the connections or at this stage or, a spark that could put it. So one thing that's been quite beneficial to me in my entrepreneurship journey is trying to, and it doesn't come naturally. It's quite tough, but to make connections, to reach out, to make the most of every opportunity, to not be, it's tricky. But as I say, if it is to be, it's up to me. At that, I could have, I didn't know anyone really at the event, and I could have just sat there and been a wallflower. And I told myself, I was like, nah, man. I was like, no. And it's just been that sense of, just let's go. That's really, you never know where it might end up. Like it really, like it was that was definitely part of the seed, and I appreciate both Yusuf and everybody else's support, because I never expected it. I really never expected it, but I really appreciate it, and it's helped me. It's helped me both with promoting our events, upcoming events, and with the with my business and sharing my product and my stuff with other CAs. We get good reviews, so we'd love more CAs to use it. Yeah, and
moral of the story: apply. But
exactly.
Moving over just to questions from the audience, just to see if there's any questions coming through. We've got a question from Brian who wants to know, can you tell us about your experience at Deloitte? What did you learn? Maybe what did you dislike and what did you enjoy?
Okay, great question. I know there tends to be kind of a perception during articles. I joked about it myself. I said I served my jail sentence at Deloitte. No, I'm joking. Personally, I enjoyed articles. No, I enjoyed articles. I learned a lot. It's the primary thing is your attitude, right? And I approached it with an attitude of learning. I just wanted to soak up as much as I could. And as I said, it wasn't necessarily about the technical skills. It was about the soft skills, because you're going to be there for 3 years. You have, your ultimate mission is to get, well, at least for those 3 years, to get your CASA, and you're working towards something. So you can learn as much as you want. You kind of have those 3 years. And the thing what did he learn? One of the things I learned that was critical to me was how a big organization functions, right? It was really interesting to me to see how a multinational corporation, for example, Deloitte, when they were, when things were going well, how partners interacted with clients, how they spoke to clients, when I got to sit in on meetings, just how business works, how when there was, some delays, what does the company do in order to address that? And the other beautiful thing about audit, and I know it's funny to say beautiful thing about audit, but in my experience, everyone's experience is, unique. I was lucky to be exposed to different aspects of a business, many different aspects. And by interacting with those people, the opportunity to speak to them, ask them, how does this work? What do you enjoy? What do you think? Etc. You can get a lot of information on the background that many other people don't get, as a finance professional. What did I dislike? That's easy. The two main things that I disliked, one was I didn't enjoy not having control over my own time. The most important thing to me was having, and still to this day is, and that's what drove the primary, thing of wanting to start my own thing. I wanted more control over my own time. I didn't enjoy being at the beck and call of a superior in that regard. But obviously, the flip side is now everything's up to me. If things don't get done, like, if I don't want to do something, or if I don't think of a way to overcome a solution or ask, how we're going to overcome a problem or address it, then there's no manager that's going to solve it, or, but that's the price, that's the opportunity, that's the cost. It's, you can have anything you want. You've just got to determine the price and are you willing to pay it? Oftentimes that price is in more than money. It's in something different than money. It's in hours of your life. It's in happiness. It's in contentment. So, my boss, you can have whatever you want, but identify the price. Are you willing to pay it? For me, I'm willing to pay that price. I enjoy, looking for getting the freedom. And the second one, the independence, and something I didn't like at Deloitte was, not at Deloitte, I just heard in audit firms in general, being part of the corporate machine, a cog in the corporate machine. something I knew from myself, from my school days, from my childhood, is I enjoy recognition. As a person, something I've identified, when I do something, I enjoy putting in the work. I don't mind working 10, 12, 15 hours a day if the outcome is for myself, and I don't mind putting in those hours to get something out of it. So that to me, identifying, values, what's important to you. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to that. That's what I didn't like. And yeah, what I've learned, I think I've touched on what I've learned throughout. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end the show on what you've learned in terms of your articles. Any last few words from you or anything you want the audience to know other than mycahub.co.za/events?
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Uwais, and for the opportunity. For everybody else, for all attendees, please come through to the Entrepreneurship After Articles event. It's going to be great. We're going to have a blast. It's going to be really valuable and insightful, whether you want to pursue entrepreneurship or try something else, whether you're in articles or a qualified CA, I think it will be of definite value. Please check it out, mycahub.co.za/events. I'll see you there. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your evening.
That's a great way to end the show. A reminder that the show is live on YouTube and will be on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube and listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Muhammed Ismail, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you, Uwais. Adios.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of 2 Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.